Hello and welcome to Everybody Has a Story with Jeff Seltzer. I am your host, Jeff Seltzer. Thanks once again for joining me. If this is your first time watching or listening to the show, really appreciate it. Shoot me a DM on Instagram. Let me know how you found the show. Once again, we are at Everybody Has a Story Pod on Instagram. If you're a repeat listener or watcher, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Definitely keep spreading the word. Definitely trying to get as much engagement and as many listeners and watchers as possible. Last week's episode, we talked to author Katya Summers. A lot of great feedback about that conversation. Katya is a great friend of mine. I've known her for years at this point. Definitely an up-and-coming author who's trying to get the word out. Obviously, you can look at her books on Kindle. On Amazon, you can buy them in traditional hard copy. Definitely all the love to Katya and her family. Definitely support her however you can. Did have something I wanted to bring up or ask about to anybody who's out there. So about a week or two ago, I went to a sports card show. And I mean, growing up, I used to all the time. And in a few weeks, I'll have a couple of my buddies, Daniel and Marcus, on to talk about sports cards. Thing that intrigues me nowadays is that sports card shows, well, historically, were all baseball, basketball, football cards. It's like half Pokemon cards at this point, which really, really blows me away. I understand the collectability aspect of it. I mean, they're really cool looking, they're limited and stuff like that. But what really intrigues me is just the value behind Pokemon cards. I mean, Pokemon cards versus, let's say, traditional sports cards. It's crazy to me how you can value one versus the other. Sports cards, you can look at it and say, well, Aaron Judge is awesome, had a great year, so obviously his rookie card will go up in value. Pokemon cards, though, like Pokemon's not like a real thing. So, I mean, I get the fact that some of the cards are rare, but like I would wonder, like how do Pokemon cards actually go up in value? Like if I have, a Pokemon or Pikachu or whatever else like that, like what drives the value? I get there's probably a demand or a need, or maybe somebody likes the design for it, but why would something all of a sudden spike? Got me to thinking it's probably a lot like investing in terms of looking at Bitcoin versus stocks. Now, full disclosure, I do own Bitcoin and I do own lots of stocks. Stocks completely make sense, right? You buy a stock, you buy Apple, you buy Meta, you buy whatever, Microsoft, and if they earn money, the stock is worth something because you own, a very small percentage of the company. Bitcoin's kind of a little bit in the fantasy land still too. Again, full disclosure, I own some Bitcoin largely because it has done a lot of great things over the last couple of years from a value perspective. But it really feels like almost, like Pokemon. Like what drives a Pokemon value and what drives Bitcoin's value? I guess it's just demand that somehow is created. Is it a bubble? I don't know. At some point, maybe it'll blow up. But in the meantime, I guess both are worth investing in and both can, make you some money. So if you have any questions or if you want to kind of, engage or talk about that a little bit, shoot me a note on Instagram. Just a reminder, we are available on YouTube at Everybody Has a Story Pod. My personal Instagram is at Seltzer77. For all things Jeff Seltzer, you can check me out over at jeffseltzer.com. If you want to email the show, you can reach directly at everybodyhasastorypod@gmail.com. A reminder for those of you who are here or want to share the show to other people, we are available on all podcast platforms. Video is on Spotify. Video is also on YouTube. We're available on Apple, iHeartRadio, Amazon, Pandora, pretty much anywhere you can find a podcast. So definitely keep sharing the love. A couple of new listeners this week, which I'm really, really excited about. So Ken reached out to me, told me he liked the show. So thanks, Ken. Appreciate it. I talked to a couple of people who I work with, talked to Kim, talked to Jareen. Definitely appreciate you guys finding the show and sending me the love for the show. So that was really, really awesome. With that said, I'm really excited about this week's guest. I've never met him in person. I've spoken to him a couple of times, but this is probably the first real one-on-one conversation. Want to introduce to all of my listeners, professional wrestler Josh Breezzyy. Josh, thank you and welcome to the show.
Hey Jeff, how's it going?
Good, yourself? Appreciate it.
Yeah, man, not bad, not bad. Another day, another dollar.
Sounds
Living
good.
the
So,
dream.
Josh, if you want to kind of take a few seconds or 30, 45 seconds and talk about who is Josh Breezzyy. So, obviously, as I mentioned, you're a professional wrestler, but kind of give us a little bit of your story, a little bit of your background, if you don't mind.
I am like we talked about earlier, a little bit of a jack of all trades. I'm a retired now, award-winning hip hop artist, current professional wrestler, the Icon Champion at the Guardians Legacy in Panama City, Florida, the God's Gift World Champion all around the country. I am the Kobe Bryant of Hardy Boyz figure collecting. I am the Nigel Thornberry of urban exploration. I mean, there's so many things that I am, and I just am a husband now, a father, and just a little bit of everything. And I can't wait to talk a little bit more about that.
Awesome. Yeah, I did see that on social media. So once again, first of all, actually, congratulations, Josh. Welcome to the club of the married guys. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. So this is you've been married what about a month at this point, give or take?
Yeah. 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 Month
Nice.
and 4 days.
Very cool. Well, congrats. I mean, it only gets easier from here. I've been married now for a little over 20 years. I
Oh
probably
wow.
look like a baby still, but somehow I managed to last over 20 years in marriage, which is crazy. I have two girls. Daughters were 17 and 14, which it's crazy just watch them grow up. But I mean, as you said before, you're a newlywed. You also have a child now, so going through all the life stages and learning as you go along. I'm sure.
Yes, absolutely. Every day is a new lesson and a new journey in itself, man. I tell you.
Awesome.
My daughter's about to be 2 and she thinks that she's 5, but she's still 2. It's crazy. So,
That's crazy. My daughters are 14 and 17. They think they're in their 30s. So
ah,
it only gets more different. It gets cooler and better, and they get more self sufficient as they get older. And obviously, experiencing things with them that as they get older is different, right? So what you do with a 2 year old, you probably do Disney on Ice or kind of like smaller things that are cool for them. But like at this age, my daughter is like, I'm taking my older daughter to go see Lincoln Park next August, which I'm super excited about. Or I've
okay.
taken them to wrestling shows. I've taken them to like Lady Gaga, like various shows that like, when they're younger, you're kind of watching it through their eyes and trying to watch them enjoy it. But like for me,
Mhm.
as I get older, being able to have like a shared love of things with them, it just kind of takes it to the next level, which is awesome.
Yeah, man, we just took her to the aquarium because she loves fish.
Nice.
And like my mom has a little fish tank and she like loved it. And she was just running around the place like from tank to tank, just trying to take it all in at once. And it was just cool to just see her like, wow, and like like fish, fish. And then she's been coming to my eye wrestling shows since she was like a month old, I
Awesome.
think. So I think she was like I want to say, let's see, she was born in March. I want to nine. She was like 9 months old when I won the God's Gift Championship, and she was ringside. So yeah, she was ringside for a street fight, Mad Dog Mayhem match, which she slept through. Uh, like so she's the next Guardians Legacy show she's gonna come, and that's gonna be her first like kind of aware show that she's like aware of things happening around her. So should be
Nice.
fun.
So at that age, obviously, it's kind of hit or miss in terms of like what they're going to recognize or understand, right? So I guess jumping right into it. So obviously, as a pro wrestler, we understand what wrestling is and what wrestling isn't, right? Versus a 2 year old, you really can't explain to them what wrestling is. It's kind of like it's storytelling. It's a live TV show for the most part. Are you afraid, or are you kind of like trying to take it easy, or like what's your mindset in terms of making sure she doesn't get scared, like when somebody's hitting you or throwing you? Like, do you try to have a conversation, say, "No, Daddy's okay, Daddy loves you, and everything's fine," or are you going to kind of wait till something happens and kind of react to that?
I never really thought about it. Sometimes, like she'll sit down and watch like AEW with me.
Okay.
Like last night, she came in and we were just sitting on the bed watching AEW, and she like when they start like hitting and stuff, she kind of like looks at me, like, is this okay? And then she'll sometimes she'll be like, no, oh no, no, and she'll be like, and I'll be like, baby, it's okay, like I feel like it's okay. It's just they're good, and I haven't got into it with her seeing me
Right.
outside of her watching like my matches back, and it kind of takes her a minute for it to click that it's me.
Yep.
And then she like, oh, dada, like, um, so yeah, this show is gonna be interesting if I'm out there getting beat up and see her reaction on the ringside. It's gonna be funny.
Awesome. So let's take a step back for a second. So obviously, you are a professional wrestler. Most people who are professional wrestlers like either grew up with or at some point kind of found a love for wrestling, like saw it on TV or in person and said, "Hey, that's pretty awesome. I think I can do that." Can you take me back to your earliest wrestling memories? So at what point did you kind of see it for the first time? Like when did you find your love for wrestling?
And I have, as far back as I can remember, I've been all in WWE wrestling. Like my earliest baby pictures that I could find, it's like me in a Stone Cold shirt or me
Nice.
throwing up the finger gun. Like, I think there's a picture up there above my desk where it's like probably 4-year-old me in like a hallway with a Stone Cold shirt, like
Nice.
pointing at this camera at my grandma's house. And yeah, man, both my parents were super into it. Like my mom loved The Undertaker, my
Awesome.
dad loved The Undertaker. So like no matter whose house I was at that weekend, like there was always wrestling involved. And yeah, so as far back as I can remember, I fell in love with the Hardy Boys. They debuted in '99, so I was 3. But so like 4 or 5, like that's peak Team Extreme. I'm all in. I remember my bedtime used to be 8, but
Okay.
Raw came on at 9. So they would let me stay up until like 9:15 on Mondays just so I can get a little taste, but I would go to sleep, and
Of
I would
course.
sneak over, turn the TV on, and immediately mute it and watch until I fell asleep on mute, or I would and like I just remember like my grandpa or my mom would come in and catch me after they caught on because they would see the light under the door.
Right.
So it's like I tried. I think there's another one last story about like early days of
Of
wrestling is
course.
I VCR'd the Jeff Hardy Undertaker the first time, like
Okay.
the raise Jeff's hand match,
Yeah.
and I had it on VHS recorded, and I would go back and play it from time to time. And then one time I went to play it, and it was ice skating,
Oh no.
and my grandma taped over
Oh
it.
no.
And I ejected the tape and I read the thing again. It was like raw, whatever the date was, and I put it back in and I pressed play, and it like immediately is ice skating. And I was just like,
You're in tears, I'm sure, at
no.
that point, right?
I was like, this is the greatest match ever, and it's gone.
Uh, that's probably the equivalent of like some people now, or I guess not now, but years ago, where like their kids accidentally like taped over their wedding video or something like that. Like for you
Mm,
at that point, it was such a pinnacle match to watch. I mean, it sounds like you watched all the time that you went through the one time and it wasn't there. You're like, what do I do now? Because this is
yeah.
pre-internet, the network wasn't a thing yet. So if
Hmm.
YouTube was even a thing yet, really either, I'm sure. So it was a case of
No.
at this point in your eyes, you're like, I will never see that match again, right?
Yeah. And it was just that was like one of my favorite matches. And like there was I think there was like the match before or after was on there too, however much the tape could take. And I'm just like, bruh, ice skating, really?
I'm sure nobody else ever watched that ice skating again beyond the one time, right?
Right? Yeah.
What can you do? So, with that said, I mean, obviously you're a few years younger than I am, so you were, super young in the Attitude Era. You became a Hardy fan, I guess, when they first, I guess, made the main roster, as you can say, or got contracted in '99. So you didn't live through the Hardy, let's say, the jobber years, right? So where Matt
No.
and Jeff had some questionable attire, some weird hairs. It just, I mean, made everybody else look good.
Yeah.
Which for me, I'd say, again, I'm 47 at this point, so I was in college during those years. So, like for me, I would say like one of my early Jeff Hardy memories was when Rob Van Dam debuted on Raw, and he fought Jeff Hardy. And Jeff Hardy, I think Jerry the King Lawler, I think made fun of him and said he's a John Bon Jovi wannabe or something like that. But like as good as Rob Van Dam was, because I was a huge ECW fan, seeing Jeff Hardy sell for him and just make Rob Van Dam look like $1 million just showed me like Jeff has it. Like one day, once he gets a few years older, something's going to happen. And I mean, the stars align, and he's looked great since then, which it was just amazing.
Yeah, I wasn't around for like when Jeff was like 12 wrestling Razor Ramon.
Right.
Uh but I've gone back and I've watched it, and I've been begging some wrestling company to make those action figures because yes, they are questionable attires, but they are toyetic. And like whether it's the plaid with the yellow Hardy Boys down the side or like the sunflower ones. Um and I think it would be even cool for them because I'm pretty sure that Matt was making
Yes.
the attire, and then he learned to sew from his mom who had passed away. So it's like I think that would just be like a wholesome action figure to just have for both of them. Um, but yeah, Jeff is definitely one of the better sellers in the business, and as much praise as he gets for the stunts and everything, like he even prides himself so much on like selling and making everybody else look good. Like his interview with Chris Van Vliet
Yep.
that just came out, he was talking about like usually in his matches when he's putting it together, he just wants to get you right to the heat so he could bump around for you and make you look good.
Right.
And that's definitely a lot of people say that I try to be uh be Jeff Hardy in my matches, and I've tried to not do that outside of I watch a lot of his matches to see how he's selling, and because something I want to work on in 2025 is being a better seller and making everything look just that much better because I feel like selling is the biggest part of the business. Like you could do all the fast moves and a million moves in a match, but if you're not telling that story with the sell, then that move doesn't look as good. If that makes sense.
100%. And for those of you that listening or watching that don't know what selling is basically like reacting in wrestling. So when an opponent doesn't move to the wrestler, making it look more legitimate or look real or kind of like make them look like $1,000.
Yeah.
And to your point, I mean, from a believability of a match perspective, if somebody's not selling or not making it look real, unless it's a hardcore match where everyone's just killing each other, like oftentimes the audience just kind of tunes out because they're like, great, this doesn't feel like anything. There's no emotion here. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, so many of the, I mean, Matt Cardona, I think, is a great example, right? In terms of somebody who sells really, really well.
Mhm.
In his indie run over the last few years or whatever, he makes his opponents look great. He's not afraid to lose to anybody, but like it's believable what he does. There's so many out there, and I mean, to your point, to make it or to look good, you've got to make sure it's not 50-50 necessarily, but both sides have to be believable, right?
Yeah,
Cool.
exactly. I think especially at back to the Guardians legacy again, we are very babyface heavy.
Okay.
So it is tough to get the crowd to cheer for somebody and boo for somebody.
Right.
So a lot of times it's going to come down to that selling and kind of just get them invested in both of you based on, all right, this person's just a little bit more aggressive because this guy's making it look like he's getting beat up just a little bit more. So we're going to cheer for you to make that comeback and we're going to kind of boo him a little bit. So like that's something like there is that when you get into that situation where there's not a very easy to digest dynamic of good versus evil, it's like the selling comes down to really helping the audience gather what's going on.
Of course. So before we get any deeper into your Hardy fandom, I wanted to get a little bit more into Josh Breezzyy, the wrestler, in terms of how
Yes.
you got into it. So, in doing some research, it looks like you trained at the Nightmare Factory. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Cool. So, for those that don't know at home, the Nightmare Factory, I believe, and keep me honest here, is or was a wrestling school run by Cody Rhodes, right? Professional wrestler, current WWE World Champion, right?
Yes.
I believe it's in the Atlanta area, something like that. Is that right?
I believe it's in McDonough now.
Okay, McDonough, gotcha. So tell me about your journey into getting into wrestling school in terms of looking at your YouTube channel. It looks like around that time you kind of maybe transitioned out of hip hop a little bit and more into wrestling, I guess, as your focus at the time. Like, take me through your mindset of when you decided this was the right time to do it. Anything you had to do personally, like quit your job or move whatever else like that, and kind of like your first thoughts and why the Nightmare Factory was the way to go.
All right, so yeah, man. We were at 2020, January 17th, 2020. I dropped Third Dimension, my last original album as a hip hop artist, and then COVID happened, and we had booked a tour. I was so invested in this tour. We were literally in the process of we had already venues were booked. We were just booking openers. Like that's how deep into it we were, and like getting the set list ready and everything like that, and kind of just doing the fine details. And then COVID happened, and at first it was like, ooh, this might be like a month thing. Like the tour's in like April, like we're good. And then it was like, no, no, this is bad. And then it was like, okay, well, this venue is closing the doors. This venue is closing the doors. Let's get our deposits back. And it was just like, all right, the tour is canceled. Everybody was just shut down. And I was like, man, what do I do? I was like, I can sit here and make more music, but for like, what is the world gonna be like?
Right.
So, and when you make so many songs, like I made probably almost 100 songs for this album that only had 20 songs on it.
Wow.
And it's just you get to a point where like you just kind of hit that creative wall where you start making things just to make it. And I felt like I was just at that point where I wanted to do something else differently. So I kind of was like, I'm sitting home, getting unemployment now because I can't work,
Right.
getting the extra money through the COVID stuff. And I was like, what better way to, just focus on really on like my health and my fitness. And I was like, but the gyms are closed. And I was like, okay. So I started running around my neighborhood, and then that kind of got boring. Because I'm on the autism spectrum, so I get bored with things very quickly.
Okay.
Unless I either go 100% in like this Hardy Boys room, or I get bored really quickly and move on. Um, so I got tired of that, and I was like, man, pro wrestling would be like a cool little workout thing. I get in real great shape, and I always loved wrestling. So I was in North Carolina at the time,
Okay.
Fayetteville, North Carolina, and I reached out to Firestar Pro because they were still running classes.
Okay.
Don't ask me how. I don't know what the rules were about that, but that was open.
Right.
And this was probably a couple months into COVID at this time. And so I think the restrictions were kind of just wear a mask and things like that. They said, we're starting the new class at whatever this date was. You're welcome to come down, check it out, and if you want to, move forward, we can do that. So I was like, all right, cool. And at the same time, I got like an Instagram, like scrolling my feed, I saw, oh, the Nightmare Factory now accepting applications. And I was like, well, might as well just fill out the application. Didn't hear anything back about that. So get ready to go to the Firestar, and I'm on my way there, and I get like a random call, and I'm driving, so I just send it to voicemail because I'm not going to answer a random number.
Of
And
course.
then I get a text message from this number, and I'm like, what is this? So,
I really
so then
want
I Right? So then I'm like, oh, maybe it's somebody I know. So I click it and it's like, oh, hi Josh, this is QT Marshall from the Nightmare Factory.
that.
And I was like, all right, let me pull over. So there's like this church. Now I'm on like this weird North Carolina highway, and there just happens to be a church.
Sure.
So I pull in the church parking lot. I read the text message. He's like, give me a call back, blah blah. So I call him and he's like, hey, somebody dropped out. We have a spot open for you. And if it's yours, we start in 2 weeks. And I was like, oh, and I was like, well, how much is it? And he was like, it's I forget, I think the whole thing was like 4 grand or whatever, but you need like a $2,000 deposit.
Got it.
And I was like, how am I getting 2 grand in 2 weeks? And he was like, because it's so short, we'll do a payment plan, whatever,
Nice.
just let me know.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I can't. The Nightmare Factory,
You can't
class
pass
one,
that up, right? You have
that's
to.
Cody Rhodes.
Yes.
And I sat in that parking lot for like 20 minutes and was just thinking like, I told Firestar I was gonna be there, but this is Cody Rhodes. I don't know who QT Marshall is, but it's Cody Rhodes.
So Josh, real quick to that point then. So you had never heard of QT. You weren't aware of his Ring of Honor work or
Not
his
at all.
Monster Factory work or anything like
Nope.
that. This was the first.
Not.
So for him, it could have been me. Could have been Jeff Seltzer calling you saying, "Hey, I'm
Yep.
from the Nightmare Factory." Like QT, the name meant nothing to you
Not at
at the
all.
time, right?
I
That's
just
crazy.
figured it was somebody helping Cody.
Sure.
So then and actually no, I think I might have known him a little bit from like AEW because like being like Cody's bad guy and
Sure.
like
Sure.
doing the funny match and stuff like that. But I
But it was
didn't
early. But it
know.
was early AEW at the time. I mean,
Yeah.
it only launched like in 2019ish or so. So at that
Yeah.
point, it's not been like a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what? Let me turn around, go home, pack my bags. I'll go. I got a friend that lives in Atlanta. Let's make this happen.
Nice.
So one of my friends, Asia, she's training with NXT down at the Performance Center now. She was
Nice.
a gymnast at college with me, and she was like, "Yeah, come sleep on my couch, it's whatever, like blah blah." I'm like, "All right, cool." So I drove the 7 hours to Georgia, slept on her couch,
Awesome.
went to the Nightmare Factory, got familiar with who QT Marshall was
A
because
little bit.
I'm like, this guy's great. He's teaching us everything. And I told him, I said it to his face, so I'm not afraid to like say it on podcasts. I say it all
Yeah.
the time because I was like, honestly, I wasn't familiar with your work. And he just got a he got such a laugh out of that. But yeah, so that's how that started. It kind of just fell into my lap really, and it was 12 weeks that were just hard at times because it was you do weight training in the morning with the guys that train the NFL Combine guys, which was awesome. So we were doing like these crazy workouts every morning, and then we go to lunch, come back, and we do in-ring stuff with Cody and QT. Glacier was there, 5 and 10 from the Dark Order were there. Towards the end, Jade started training with us,
Nice.
Anthony Agogo, Anna Jay. Um, and it was cool to be around people that were on TV and learn from people that were once us because they never gave off the feeling of I'm on TV, I'm better than you guys. It was more of a I used to be you, let me help,
That's awesome.
which was always cool. Like one of the stories I tell people a lot, like when people are like, "Oh, you're from the Nightmare Factory," all they want to do is ask you, like, "Oh, how was it?" and all this stuff. And one of the best memories I have was I was sitting watching the night class, which is like the advanced kids after the camp. A lot of them were like QT's guys, and Ricky Starks just came and sat next to me
Oh wow.
and was just like dissecting this match, like telling me like pointers and like just talking wrestling with me. And I'm like, I've never even met him at this point. And then like 2 weeks later, we were taking chops from him. It was him, QT, Penn, and Cody, and we were just one of us was in a corner, and we would just take a chop from everybody and then swap out. And Penn had just chopped the life out of me, and I was like bent over like this because shoot hurt. And I like look up and Ricky's right there and he chops me like right in the throat.
Oh
And
no.
he's like, keep your chin up and just keeps going. And I was like, I need a tag, hot
Oh, it's
tag.
crazy.
But yeah, that was how I got there, man.
So that's really cool. Great story, and obviously, definitely an opportunity you couldn't pass up, right? Going to, and again, not to demean any local indie wrestling school, but I mean, nothing compares to the Nightmare Factory. Like, there's very few
Yeah,
out there that you would put up and say, like, I'd want to go to this one instead of that. So that was a huge opportunity. Just very lucky that it happened on the way to your first day of training.
yeah.
So obviously, wrestling school and training is something that never really ends, right? Like even day one you're learning, day 16 you're learning, you keep going, whatever. Um, to this day, so this is a number of years ago at this point. Like, do you still go to like a local wrestling school? Do you drop it at Nightmare Factory? Like, what is your wrestling like training regimen look like, if at all, at this point?
So I don't train as much as I would like to, just based on work and having a 1.5, almost 2 year old.
Of course.
Um, but I do so before shows at Guardians Legacy, I work with the guys at the Hope Academy. And we just do some simple things there. When I work Kraken, Huck and Diggs do some small little trainings. Cantrell does a lot of the more technical stuff
Okay.
there. So it's really just finding the time to like work on the things. I feel like a lot of my matches, I don't want to say it's like riding a bike because it's definitely not, and I don't want it to seem like I'm like slacking off
Of
because I'm
course.
in the gym. I'm in the gym every day. I'm in probably the best shape of my life. Just saw some guys, my old tag partner from the Nightmare Factory with his new tag partner, and they were both like, "Man, you look jacked now. Like, what
Nice.
happened?" And I was like, "Hey, trying."
That's right.
Um, so it's just staying in shape. Like I do a lot of cardio and things like that, so I don't get blown up in the ring, and then just working on fundamentals and trying to substitute the lack of in-ring training with tape study. Like I've watched matches I never thought I would ever watch.
Nice.
Like just what like especially with a lot of the shows that I work run monthly.
Okay.
So I have time in between, like I know what I'm doing in a month from now. So let me watch all the matches of this match type and kind of pull from it. Like uh February 1st, it's a tag team like special event. So like all the matches are supposed to be tag teams, but they
Yep.
want me to defend my singles title. So there's like this old TNA gimmick match where it starts as a tag team, and then whoever takes the pin is eliminated, and then it becomes a triple threat, and whoever takes that pin is eliminated, and then it's an X division, with the cables and the belt hanging,
Right.
that match. So we're doing that, but
Awesome.
instead of the crosses, it's gonna be a ladder match at the end. So like
Gotcha.
I'm watching like all the variations TNA did with that. I'm watching individual ladder matches, and I'm watching a lot of John Cena matches. Um, because they kind of want me to be their John Cena to an extent, and I feel
Nice.
like I could kind of put a modern twist on not the five moves of doom John Cena, but remember when he just started hitting all these crazy moves
Oh
in
yeah.
like the mid 2010s? Like he just was springboard this and Hurricane Ranas. So just trying to pick things from different people that that people don't expect from Josh Breezy at this point.
Which is great. I mean, there are definitely worse wrestlers that could say like they're not saying, "Hey, we want you to be the Dwayne Gill of our wrestling company or the Barry Horowitz." Like being
Right.
told we want you to be our John Cena is probably not much higher than that at this point. So that's got to be an honor at that point.
Yeah, I mean, once they put this title on me, I've done so much. And shout out to Skip, the owner of the Guardians Legacy. We do a pre-show meeting at the ring, and he like acknowledged like all the stuff I've been doing with the title, and he was like, it's almost like he sleeps with this title. Like it's just he's got it everywhere. Like
Right.
I took it to work the first week. My CEO is like a big wrestling fan, and my what is she? The chief of nursing,
Okay.
who's my boss's boss. She's a big wrestling fan. They both bought like my shirts off PWTs.
Awesome.
And so like we took a nice picture with like both my belts. They had their Josh Breezy shirts and we shared it there. I was at AEW with the title, like second row from the floor. And there was another another local wrestler on the other side, like up in the nosebleeds. And he texted Skip and was like, "Man, I could see Breezy's title from all the way over here." And
Nice.
it was just I've just been trying to do everything I can to just something that Cody taught us was to treat everybody like The Rock and present yourself like you're The Rock.
Nice.
And so like I'm always a big just doing what I can to present the company, any company that I work for, especially if you invest in me. Like I was just talking to one of the younger guys, and I was like, if a company shows that they're invested in me and they want me there and they care about me, I'm gonna give them 250%.
Nice.
Um, and then if they just, want to put me on the car just to fill a spot, then they're just gonna get 100%. But if you believe in me, then I'm gonna do everything I can to, because it's gonna help the company and me at the same time. So,
Of course. So a lot to unpack there. First off, for anybody listening or watching, wanted to plug Josh's Pro Wrestling Tees site. I checked it out earlier today. If you go to prowrestlingtees.com and then just do a search for Josh Breezzyy, that's Breezzzyy. He's easily got, I don't know, a dozen or 2 dozen different shirts there, lots of different designs, lots of cool stuff. So definitely take a look at that. Other thing I was going to mention is earlier today, I watched on YouTube a ladder match that Josh Breezzyy had from, I think it was last summer at APW, which was interesting to
oh
me.
boy.
It was definitely it was interesting because I've been to some. I mean, I've at 47, I've been to hundreds of indie wrestling shows. Some of them are in different types of buildings. I went to one. It was like in a VFW where the ceiling was super low. It was like 99, and the Blue Meanie tried to do a moonsault, but the ceiling was too low, so it didn't work out, or it kind of hit as you would expect it to. I thought it was cool. You mentioned before, like doing research for a ladder match of sorts next month. Like last summer or whenever you did this ladder match, like did you have a similar mindset of like watch a bunch of different ladder matches, kind of see what kinds of spots you can kind of borrow or kind of improve upon or stuff like that, or kind of like where was your mindset from a research perspective?
That is the infamous ladder match at APW at this point.
I
There
didn't
was
realize it was
so
so infamous.
much, there's so much that went. I was really hoping you picked any other ladder match.
Sorry.
Um, no, you're fine, man. I love talking about it. It was a little viral clip. Um, so that match was just doomed from the start. We
Oh.
had we had so much planned.
So
Like all three
before
of
you go any
us.
further, let me say, like, I had no idea about any of this. I just kind of I just YouTubed you and found the first match that I could find. I thought it
Gotcha.
was great. I thought it was a fun match. Nothing came across as weird or awkward. So getting some behind the scenes is definitely an interesting perspective.
Oh,
But like me as a first time watching you and the other guys, I thought it was cool. I mean, your swanton off the ladder to the outside, I thought was really, really cool too. So all sorts of
oh,
stuff about
okay.
it.
That's the viral clip.
I mean, it was a cool shot or whatever. The crowd was going nuts. They're chanting your name. So I mean, for
Mm.
me, again, without knowing the backstory or kind of any kind of like weirdness about it, like I thought it was great. But I'm sorry, continue, please.
No, you're good. So I'm glad that you enjoyed it because I don't think any of us did. Uh, um, we just had so much planned that we did like we had a group chat and we would like watch ladder matches and send spots like, oh, we should do this, we should do that. And then it was like getting with the owners of it and be like, do we have this? Can we do this? Yes, yes, yes. And then we get there and there's like I'm trying to like so when I get there, I'm always like one of the first people there, like super early. And just so I can kind of walk the building, and especially like when it comes to these ladder matches, like I'm all about making a moment.
Of course.
And like, dang, what can I jump off of? Uh, so so I get there and I'm like, hey, where are all the ladders? And they're like, oh, we have this ladder, and it's like it's a wooden ladder
Oh no.
that's spray painted black,
Uh,
and it had to be from like 1965,
ooh.
like dry rotted wooden ladder barely together, right?
Oh,
And then there was another giant ladder, which is the big orange one. And then I think there was a blue ladder, a metal ladder, but the rungs in the oh, my daughter's kind of busting.
no
Uh,
worries.
the things in the middle that go down the little arms were like
Right.
all busted.
Yeah.
So I'm like, these are the ladders. I'm like, okay,
Oh
so
no.
there goes like four of our spots because I'm not doing a seesaw on this wooden ladder.
It's
I'm
gonna
not
collapse,
doing
right?
this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then the ring announcer comes to the back and we're telling him like how we want to start the match.
Of course.
And I'm saying, so when I was at Pro South, we started doing this thing to kind of pay a little homage to Kenny Omega, baby. To kind of pay like a little homage to Kenny Omega and like me being from not from North Carolina, but I lived in North Carolina.
Sure.
So the announcer at Pro South would be like, from Long Island, New York, residing in Orlando, Florida, by way of North Carolina. Like, and
Yeah.
it just got over big. So I've been doing that everywhere else. So I told him that, and he's like, "Yeah, no, that's not how I ring announce." And he was like, "Yeah, I got this character," but I was like, "What?" I was like,
The ring announcer is a
I
character. That's something else, right?
yes. So like I'm trying to paint my face. There's no AC in this building. It's literally just sweating off me
Oh,
as I put it on and the Posca is just running down.
oh no.
And I'm like, wait, what? And I'll never Sanson is like right to my left, and he just starts dying because of my I'm like, wait, what? And I was like, you know what, bro? Long Island, New York.
That's fine.
Don't
We
even
got
worry
this.
about it.
Yes.
Don't even worry about it. And I was like, did he just say he has a character? And
Oh no.
I was like, wait, I thought I was right.
Uh,
Oh man.
that's
So,
so that's so indie wrestling, by the way. I mean, you never know what
right?
you're gonna see, right?
And then so the start of the match, I was supposed to come out. I had a garbage can full of all these weapons, right? And they were supposed to meet me at the ramp. I was gonna take the bat to James and then garbage can to Sanson.
Yep.
And then bust to the ring, set up this ladder. They were gonna come stop me, right? I walk out for my entrance and they're both just standing in the ring.
Right.
And I didn't hear my like entrance thing. So I'm like, okay. And Sanson's trying to like say to me without saying to me, like, just get in the ring.
Yep.
This guy's all of a sudden doing like a boxing style championship introduction. And I'm like, dude, this is not what we talked about.
Right.
Like, did you listen? So like I awkwardly am like just standing there, really aggravated now.
Sure.
Uh, so I think I just dropped the trash can, take the bat in the ring, and I just go. And I think I'm like the most aggravated that I couldn't just hide it in the ring for my introduction. So then he rings the bell and I just start wailing everybody with his bat. So so I get the ladder and I go to set it up and I took like two steps. It's the wooden ladder and it just crumbles.
Oh,
So now I go and then Sanson I think tries to get me. I hit him off. I hit him with something. I go to get the blue ladder now. I set that up and it's all janky.
oh,
And I'm like, oh my God. But I was hoping there was another ladder because this blue ladder was kind of big too.
right.
So for like 3 minutes, I'm just going around the ring trying to find this other ladder that we should have. Ooh, excuse me. And I never find it. So then I finally just like one of the fans was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm trying to find a ladder." So I just pull out the blue one and we go from there. So then we work to the big ladder spot, right?
Right.
And I put it out there and I had to like put it over the guardrail because it was so big because this isn't supposed to be I had to go out of the guardrail to get the ladder, bring it back in and put it over the guardrail. It was
Of
just
course.
not it wasn't where it's supposed to be. So I set it up and I go up and I like look and I'm like if I try to do a flip here, my foot is gonna hit this beam. So
Right.
then I like awkwardly come down like two rungs. Now I'm like I can barely flip because I'm not that high.
Right.
And then I'm just like, whatever. And I just kind of go for it. Now, if you look, so this is what went viral, is because it wasn't a good swan song. And
But you had
it
limited
was,
space, though. I mean, you had not much
yes.
space. And I'll say before you go any further, the thing that popped me when I was watching it earlier today was to your point, you went up, you went down, you went up again. Because I think at that point, I'm looking at it, I'm like, he's trying to figure out, how
Uh-huh.
high can I go and how far out do I have to get, whatever else like that. So to your point, there wasn't much space to deal with. But you did a really good, swanton given the space, and the crowd seemed to like it a lot as well.
So that's exactly right. It was, oh, I'm too high. Nope, I'm too low. I guess this is gonna have to work.
Hmm.
But then if you watch, what went viral is that it looked bad or whatever, and people were like, "Oh my God, look at want Timu Uso this and
Uh,
Timu Jeff Hardy this," and people were like, "Oh, he did a crouton. Oh, he barely flipped. Oh my God, he needs to stop wrestling." And I'm like, "Bruh, the ref let go of the ladder.
uh,
The whole ladder shifted." So I had to post this like slow-mo version where the ref is like barely gracefully holding this giant like 20-foot ladder with a
right.
230-pound guy on it.
Yep.
And as soon as I go to push off, the whole thing just moves like a foot.
Oh,
So like I go and I like lose my balance and and I like had to flip over. And
yeah.
even there, like on the floor, Sanson watched this happen from the table and he's like, "Bro, are you okay?"
Oh, no.
And I'm just like, I got to the back and I saw the ref and I was like, bro, if you ever don't hold a ladder for somebody else again, I
Yep.
hope they're worse to you than I am. Because that is you. I could have died because you couldn't hold a ladder. And like I understand, like Bully Ray will say the ref shouldn't hold the ladder.
Of
If
course.
it's a 6 foot ladder, I get it. When it's a
Yep.
20 foot ladder
You have to.
in a janky indie promotion,
Yep.
you should hold the ladder.
Yeah.
Like, and we had two refs. We had two refs,
Yeah.
and only one of them was at the ladder and was barely holding it.
Well,
Oh man,
I'll say to that though. I think they learned after your first spot because they overcompensated in the finish. Because when you climbed up and got
yes.
the belt, both
Weren't they both
referees were
holding
holding the
it?
ladder. They were both holding the ladder. I was like, yeah, they get it now. And I'm sure by the time they got to the back, they're like, no, we get it. We understand. We learned from our mistakes. So
Yeah,
we'll try to
but
move on
I
today.
was man. What a match, man. I won though, so
Well, I mean, not that I'm a wrestler, but like everybody has a match like that, right? It's a memory of some kind. I mean, I assume you didn't make it to Botchamania, which is probably a win for you there as well.
I was definitely checking because I was waiting for it. Because this Facebook clip had like 700,000 views, and I was like,
Oh
I'm gonna
wow,
be on Botchamania.
yeah.
And then I was watching, and for like a month, I would check and just make sure. Oh,
You're like I'm safe. It's going to be okay.
yeah.
So again, thank you for sharing that match. That's really great. And again, definitely adds a little another level to what I watched earlier today. A couple of questions I did have to ask you before we call it a day. First of all, for those of you that haven't seen Josh Breezzyy wrestle, you do, as you mentioned before, you paint half of your face. Um,
Yes.
so I know you went to the Nightmare Factory. Is that a tribute to Dustin Rhodes, or is that just something you just kind of did on your own, just because you thought it was something for you?
So when I first started at the Nightmare Factory, always wanted to paint my face because of Jeff and Sting and guys like Warrior, and I just always thought it was awesome.
Yep.
And we were the nice guys at the Nightmare Factory. So I was like, man, it'd be kind of cool if I did a smiley face. But if I do a whole smiley face, that's weird. So I just did half the smiley face. And then like Jeff paints his whole face. This is how I could be a little bit different.
Right.
Like, so I was doing the yellow black outline smiley face gimmick, and then we weren't the nice guys anymore. So then I kind of started to just keep half the face, but I would do a different paint every match. And I would try my best not to make it too Jeff Hardy-esque, though it can be sometimes, but I think that's just because people like see paint face and they're like, "Oh, Jeff Hardy."
Of course.
But the one I just did for the icon in my icon champion promo pictures is a tribute to Dustin. His more recent face paints. I did a full face one time when I was working as a heel, and I did half Stardust, half Gold Dust.
Oh, cool.
That was pretty cool. But yeah, I do a different one every time.
Nice.
I started selling masks at my merch table, so, and doing a different face paint every time. I get new masks and paint them myself every time.
Awesome.
And that's kind of how I decide what I'm gonna do on my face is I do it on the mask first, and then I do it on my face. Um, but the Dustin one was cool, man. Like I think we only had one when they were shooting the pilot for Cody's TV show,
Yes. Yeah, yeah, I
and
remember that.
Dustin was there for that, and he kind of trained us a little bit that day. And it was just awesome to be in the ring with him. He was just so cool. It was right after the bunkhouse match because he was still bleeding from his
Okay.
elbows,
Oof.
and he was like showing us this thing, and he like locked up with Jen and was like, "Ooh," and he just like let go, and she was like, "What'd I do? Oh my God, I heard gold dust," and he's like, "Yep, I'm bleeding."
Uh,
And but he was just so cool. So I was like, and he's been cool to me like through social media and stuff since then. So like I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do this. I'm wearing red. Let me do this Dustin paint. Let me see if I could kind of do something there. So I did that, and I just try to pay a little bit of homage to everybody. Sometimes, it rubs people the wrong way, apparently. But
what can you do? I mean, I've seen in terms of homage, obviously, one of your main moves is the Rough Rider. I would assume an
yeah,
homage to Matt Cardona, previously known as Zack Ryder.
yes, sir.
Obviously, before I even knew that you actually did live in North Carolina at some point, I assumed your by way of North Carolina was a tribute to the Hardy Boys because they're obviously from
Ah,
North Carolina. So, but it sounds like you actually legit lived there at one point. So that's not
yeah,
necessarily the thing.
2 years. I originally I born and raised in Long Island, down in Suffolk County, and then moved to North Carolina for 2 years, and now I'm down here in Florida.
Nice. For those of you at home listening and watching, Josh Breezy's nickname is The Answer. Doing a little research, I found who would have been his two dream tag team partners, it seems like. Unfortunately, this person passed away right before Josh started wrestling, there was somebody known as the Question. Not sure if you're aware, previous NWA wrestler Josephus was the Question. So you'd imagine the Question and the Answer would be a pretty good tag team
Huh.
there. I would assume also, if you could do an intergender tag team match, Marina Shafir is the Problem. So we got the Problem and the
There we
Answer.
go.
That could go as well.
Nice.
If you're looking for
Nice.
gimmicks, or that could work as well if she leaves John Moxley's team and does something there. With a few minutes left, I did want to go over. I got a couple of questions from friend of the show, Marcus. I also want to go a little deeper into the Hardy collectibles that you have. So Marcus, not sure if you've met him, Marcus Brandon, Marcus Percal. He's in the Major Wrestling Facebook group.
Yes,
Sent me
I
two things.
recognize the name.
Yes. First thing he said to me was he wanted to shout out the fact that he actually went to go see you once wrestle last year at an indie show because you were the champ, but you apparently had transportation issues and you didn't make it. So he's
Oh
hoping
man.
to see you wrestle at some point live.
Oh wait, was it the it was in
It was
South Carolina?
July 20th of last year in, where was it? It was in Striped Pig Distillery in Charleston.
Yep. Okay. Yep. That's okay. Dang, man. Okay, so you're in South Carolina. I'll be in South Carolina soon. Yeah,
Yeah, so
man.
Marcus
My
Marcus lives
car.
down there. I'm in Jersey, so unfortunately it wouldn't work for me. But Marcus, he says next time you're in the area for Colt Inclusive Wrestling, he'd love to go to your next show.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
Of course. Shout out to Marcus, big fan of the show. His other question, this kind of gets back into the final thing I want to talk about more about your collectibles, is what is your Mount Rushmore of Hardy figures? Like if you had to put, four up there as like, these are the Hardy figures that, you would showcase as the best of all time or that for whatever reason emotionally attached to you, like what would be your Mount Rushmore?
So definitely this TLC like big box set with the ring and the tag title and the Hardys, Edge and Christian and Bubba Ray Dudley, man. That I think it's not even just about how massive it is and how cool it is. And like I definitely had it as a child, and I think me and my two older brothers got it as like a Christmas gift together.
Nice.
Um, but the story about how I got it is just like always gonna hit my heart there. I saw it on eBay for $500
Oh, wow.
and I literally door dashed Christmas Eve and the 23rd, 24th, and and Christmas afternoon to make $500 so I could buy it on
Wow.
eBay. And my wife always jokes, she's like, "I've never seen you more dedicated to anything in life." And I was just out there from morning, like I think I'm like the first day I made like $200 and I called it a day. And then the next day was like 200 and whatever dollar, like $260 or whatever. And then I needed the last like $50 or whatever. And so that's definitely number one.
Okay.
Um, the classic Superstars 2-pack with the Brood attire.
Okay.
That is one of my favorites of all time.
Nice.
We're going to have to put the WrestleMania Double Slam 4 Brood attire, which is their first ever figure.
Okay.
That's the 2-pack there. And just looking around, I can't say I'm gonna give an honorable mention to the Elite One Jeff Hardy, but it's not an officially released figure, so we're not gonna count it.
Fair.
Oh, we got to go with the Team Extreme 3-pack,
With
the
Lita, right?
green. Yeah, with
Gotcha.
Lita, the green. And that's something that people don't realize either. And I definitely don't think because Matt didn't really try to focus too much on Lita, but I collect Lita as well.
Okay.
I'm missing only one of her figures.
Oh, wow.
The WrestleMania 21 with the title belt, but like I have all her figures, all her Mattels, her bobblehead, her trading cards, her mail away, her Toy Fair exclusive, and I think I have a test shot of her Royal Rumble. Yeah, her Mattel Royal Rumble. So
Awesome.
definitely all inclusive here at the Team Extreme.
Very cool.
Bro.
Love to hear that. So, for those of you that didn't necessarily get the reference, so last summer, Matt Cardona, professional wrestler of the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast, he went to Josh Breezzy's house and did a full vlog of Josh Breezzy's room. So, Josh Breezzy's room, if you're watching the video here, you see a little bit of it, but the YouTube video with Matt Cardona is insane in the fact that it shows basically Josh as, and keep me honest here, just about every Matt Jeff Hardy as well as Lita action figure that's ever existed. Like, wall to
Yeah.
wall, ceiling to floor. It's all there. It's super impressive and definitely takes dedication. And to your point before, you found something you didn't have and you worked your behind off to make sure you got the money so you can buy it, even though it was a bit pricey.
Yeah, and like this Toys R Us display, which is mind-boggling to me that I own this thing.
Yeah,
But it's like this bubble with like wired figures and like Matt's getting choke slammed by Kane. And I
right.
was like, I gotta have this. I think
Yes,
I was looking for like a Toys R Us shelf. Like just like a store shelf that said Toys R Us on it to put in here to like put figures on,
right.
and that popped up. And I'm like, I know that is not a Matt Hardy. And I was like, dang, 300 bucks? Yeah, makes sense. Oh, you know what? Buy it now.
You're this far in, you might as well at this point, right?
Right? Crazy, man.
Yeah. So anybody out there, go. All you have to do is do a YouTube search of Josh Breezzyy, Matt Cardona. It's the first thing that pops up. It's an impressive video. It's about 30 minutes long. Has a pretty cool intro from Matt driving there and kind of like talking about what he's going to see. You see, you got a nice view of Josh's house. So really, really, really awesome. So again, check that out, guys. Anything else you'd like to share or promote or support before we end it for the week?
Nah, man, like I think we kind of covered mostly everything. Check me out on YouTube. I do a lot of stuff outside of, wrestling matches, figure unboxings, room tours. There's music, there's ghost investigations, there's urban explorations. Like I've done it all, man. And in 2025, I'm looking to get back on being more present on YouTube. I kind of slacked off the last year, but trying to get more content up on there. And yeah, Pro Wrestling Tees, you plug that for me.
Of course.
Josh Breezy, two E's, two Z's, two Y's. Drink your goat fuel.
Nice.
If you're an energy drink person, there's a link in my Instagram bio, save 10%. Yeah, that's pretty much it, man.
Yeah, cool. Definitely check out all Josh Breezy's social medias. He's one of the few guys who still has a website as well, which I super respect. You want to make sure that people can find you wherever they're at, whether it be social media, whether it be on, the websites, whether it be whatever. They have no excuse for not finding you. So definitely respect that. Basically, for all things Josh Breezzyy, you can go check out joshbreezzyy.com, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And also, Josh didn't mention it, but while we were talking, I checked out Apple Music and saw a whole bunch of his albums there as well. So
Yeah.
definitely check that out, sample that. I'm sure Josh gets some kind of royalty or something for every time you listen to something. So,
Yeah, I get a couple percents of a penny.
well, a couple of percents of penny add up if, everybody at home, not telling you to do this, but maybe put things on repeat and listen to it over and over again. And eventually you'll get a few
Yeah.
pennies. So we'll see what happens.
It's funny, every now and again I like log into my TuneCore and they don't release my last album, but like all my old stuff, and they just added a new thing where they show you like your all-time streams,
Okay.
and it's like 2.4 million streams,
That's
right?
impressive. That's really, really great. Yeah.
You would think, but then
Right.
you go to like the bank and you like
Uh,
look how much money you've made and it's like a couple $100,
yeah.
and it's like, how does this make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, right? Thinking about like how does anybody really make money in music anymore, right? Especially, I mean, I'm sure, for the most part, it's probably independently done. But like, if anybody has a record label, sure, the record label can push them, but everybody's getting a cut. So at the end of the day,
Yeah.
who's actually getting paid? It's a crazy industry.
Yeah, that's why I had to like, when I couldn't tour and I couldn't sell tickets and do things, and it was just all like, I hope they stream my music. Meanwhile you got like verses going on and people like at their home listening to classic songs. They're gonna go check out the new Josh Breezy. But I
Yeah,
mean, that album did get me Artist of the Year at the Josie Music Awards
awesome.
in Tennessee, which to me is that'll be the last thing I touch on, just because
Yeah,
so the Josie Music Awards is like touted as the biggest independent um music awards in the country. Like they sell out the Grand Opry in Tennessee there, but there's no hip hop category. Like it's like mostly centered around country and pop artists, but they have a multi-genre category
okay,
that I submitted for. And I submitted for Album of the Year, Artist of the Year, and Record Label of the Year. And we got nominated for all of them. And then I won Artist of the Year. So for me as a hip hop artist at the time out of North Carolina from Long Island,
sure,
to win Artist of the Year at a predominantly country, been around for 20 years, probably never awarded a hip hop artist anything.
of course.
Uh, like it was major, and I had no idea that I was nominated or anything, and it just the little plaque thing came in the mail,
Wow.
and I like opened it and I saw like this package from the Joe's Music Awards. I was like, huh? And I opened it. I was like, wait, art? What?
That's
And
crazy.
I think it might still be in like my stories or whatever on Instagram. But I just remember like going outside and yelling, "Artist of the Year, Artist of the Year!" Just I was like, what? I was like, they told me I'd never be nothing.
You're going grocery shopping or Publix. You're like, I'm the artist of the year. Look at me over here, right?
Right? And it's so funny, like at the Nightmare Factory, which is like I think 20 like the end of 2020, beginning 2021, like I was still saying artist of the year, and
Yeah.
Hayden Beckland's like, bro, that was last year, like
Oh
get over
no.
it. And then even now, like I always like, artist of the year, and
Right.
people are like, what?
Nice. That's
But
pretty awesome. So yeah, definitely again, check out some of Josh Breezzy's earlier music, which can be found on all musical platforms, I'd assume. With that said, Josh, thank you so much for joining. Really appreciate your time. For everybody at home listening, as a reminder, we can be found at Instagram at Everybody Has a Story Pod. My personal Insta is at Seltzer77. For all things Jeff Seltzer, check me out at jeffseltzer.com. For any business inquiries or anything you want to do with the show, email me at everybodyhasastorypod@gmail.com. Reminder to tell all your friends and your family and your neighbors that we're available on all podcast platforms: Apple, iHeartRadio, Amazon, Pandora, anywhere else you can find anything. With that said, have an amazing week, and we'll be back soon. Take care, guys. Bye.